All right, let's stay with the courts, but go to the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Of course, the star footballer gunned down in his girlfriend's home in October 2014. Now, the gun linked to accused number 3, Mthobisi Mncube, is the one that killed soccer star Senzo Meyiwa. This is the finding of ballistics expert Chris Mangena. He says the bullets recovered from the crime scene were fired from the accused's firearm. Our reporter Mangqoba Mchunu following proceedings in court and joining us now. Thank you so much for joining us. So, first of all, let's focus on Chris Mangena, because this is a man who came to prominence in the eyes of the South African public during the Oscar Pistorius trial. This man, tell us more about him.
Certainly, said, and I think we all remember Chris Mangena from the Oscar Pistorius trial, where he had testified about the bullet projectile and how Riva had been shot inside that bathroom, how the shots perforated the door, the position and the angle in which Riva Steenkamp was sitting when Oscar Pistorius fired that shot. And I think we also saw some demonstrations in court, even with the door being brought inside the courtroom itself, where we saw, Mangena using, all sorts of gadgets and all these strings just to show the angles that, the bullets had been fired. And of course, this just marked, the career of this man for us. I mean, it's the media. It's when we started knowing Chris Mangena. And of course, we also saw him at the scene of, the murder in 2014. I was there as well. So Chris Mangena was also part of the people that are there on the scene during that time.
And today in court, some very interesting things coming out. Tell us about the 2 shots issue that he spoke of, first of all.
Interestingly, Sally, I think we've heard testimony from different witnesses, some of the people that were inside the house, the neighbors that also testified in court about what they heard on the night that Senzo Meyiwa was shot. And what some of the people agree is that they heard more than 1 shot that went off at the house. And in fact, Zandile Khumalo, who's one of the people who was inside the house, saying that the first shot, when it went off, she had gone and hidden in the bathroom. She says that she felt something that, felt like a spark that hit her on her legs when that first shot went off. She also spoke about hearing a second shot when she was inside the bathroom, and she says that particular shot was much more fainter in sound compared to the first one. So we've got to understand from Chris Mangena that, in fact, there were 2 shots that were fired on that night that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. The first one was fired in a downward position to the floor. It hit the tile, and which is probably why Zandile Khumalo felt the spark that she had felt. That spark was from that bullet when it fragmented and hit the tile. We also got to understand that the second shot was the one that shot and killed Senzo Meyiwa. This one hit a softer target, which is the reason why it had ricocheted and hit the door. And we understand that at the time the door had been opened, which is the reason why that bullet could not go through the door, as explained by Mangena. So it gives us a sense of just exactly where the people in the house were, where Senzo Meyiwa was, and how that bullet went, the way that that bullet had gone.
So the second bullet went through the soccer star and hit the door.
That's according to the evidence that we heard. And of course, you recall that yesterday we also heard from, the forensic pathologist that examined Senzo Meyiwa, also confirming that he was shot at close range and that this bullet had gone in a downward trajectory, suggesting that perhaps he was shot in that direction, with the bullet then going down and coming out at the back.
So if both men were standing, or if both people were standing, the person who shot Meyiwa was taller than him?
Indeed, Sadie.
How tall was Meyiwa?
Meyiwa, I think, was 1.77. That's what we heard in court, according to the testimony that was given by Mangena. But of course, there's still a lot of questions. But what it seems, Said, is that, from what we've been hearing in court, the suggestion is that, one of the accused, and in fact, accused number 3, was the one that fired this shot. But perhaps before we even get to all of those, let's take a listen to Mangena talking about those 2 shots in the house.
After examination of the crime scene, the clothing of the deceased and the wound sustained, I could determine that at least 2 shots were fired at the house or at the crime scene. 1 shot was fired directly to the floor in an angle of approximately 90 degrees. Now, I looked at the shape of the bullet mark or bullet damage on the tile. It's almost a circular shape. Now, what does that tell me is, if you take a firearm, you fire it at the 90 degrees, your bullet will hit the floor and it will hit it on the center part. So meaning your bullet will hit the floor in this thing. And it transfers all the energy that it have to the center part on the floor. So in this instance, what will happen is, that's what we call the effect of the bullet on the target and vice versa, which is called terminal ballistics. Now in this instance is your bullet, if your bullet is stronger than the tire, your tire will be more damaged than the bullet. In the instance where your bullet is softer than the tire, the more damage will be on your bullet.
So that's fascinating. Chris Mangena really knows his stuff. Let's talk about the gun and the bullets, because we know that a gun found years after the murder in a police store was found to be linked to this crime. But it had been seized in relation to another crime linked to accused number 3, who we heard earlier this week, his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, saying that the police came and took this gun in relation to another crime. So talk to us about the gun.
The interesting bit about all of this said is that this is the very same gun that was meant to have been destroyed in 2017. Where we find now in 2020, the investigators of this case now, asking for Mangena to have a look at this particular firearm. So what we understand said is that they had discovered a person of interest, and they had quite a number of these suspects that were being suspected of possibly being linked to the Senzo Meyiwa case. And this is where they then asked Mangena to then test this particular gun and the bullets that were found in this gun. And we recall this related to a taxi-related shooting that had happened in Alexandra back in 2015, in February. And in fact, we understand that Mthobisi Mncube had been sentenced to 35 years for that particular crime, which is why this particular matter was closed in August 2017, and that gun was meant to have been destroyed. But fast forward to 2020, that's when then the link was made between this gun and what happened at the Khumalo household in 2014. And already we've seen the state building this case said that accused number 3 had dreadlocks. That's the testimony we heard also from the girlfriend as well as the landlord. He had guns, and also this was somebody who had a propensity to commit crime. He was involved in acts of criminality. So you can see where this is all heading. But as far as this gun is concerned, so what Mangena was able to establish with this gun is that he was able to do various tests. And remember, this gun had been taken in 2015. There were also tests that were done in 2015. So he compared the bullet projectile that was found in the house with some of the, the bullets that were fired and found on the scene. And what he was able to establish is that there were markings that had similar appearances. I forgot the term that they're called, Sally, but those markings on the bullet, they are only unique to that particular bullet. So he managed then to see that this was, the gun that actually fired the shot that killed Senzo Meyiwa. And in fact, we got to see that gun in court. It was handed to the defense as well as the judge. We got to see that firearm as well as some of the bullets, one of the bullets that was found in the crime scene. But he also painted a picture of where exactly Senzo Meyiwa had been standing at the time when this all happened. Take a listen.
Right, what I see on this, the wound sustained by the deceased here. Firstly, we look at the T-shirt and the vest. The holes on that T-shirt and vest are not normal holes from a normal bullet that penetrated the body. Okay. The tearing of this vest and T-shirt indicates a close range, and it's a very, very close range. What I see here, Malot, is the firearm was in contact with the body of the deceased. Okay. And when you speak of contact wound, where the firearm is in contact with the body, we've got a hard contact and a loose contact.
All right, so what we've heard from Chris Mangena today is he's saying that that gun that was seized from accused number 3 definitely fired the shot that killed Senzo Meyiwa.
Certainly, Selen. Not only that, also the bullets that were found are the similar type of bullets that were also found in the crime scene. Not the same bullet, but similar type of bullet that was also found, which does suggest that that's a gun that killed
Going
Senzo
to the
Meyiwa.
height issue very quickly, we heard you said Senzo's about 177, was 177 meters tall, and the gun, it seemed, shot at an angle down, suggesting that the shooter possibly taller. How tall is accused number 3? Got to ask.
Well, not that tall, Sally, but I think that's one of the questions that we'll hear, likely to hear from the defense,
Absolutely.
which, we've already heard just when Johannes Steenekamp was testifying from Advocate Mshololo asking about the height issue and whether or not, one of accused number 3 could possibly have been the one that fired that shot. Of course, the defense is maintaining that it's one of the people inside the house that shot and killed Senzo Meyiwa. So it will be very interesting when the cross-examination begins to hear exactly how the defense is going to be poking holes in this.
Absolutely fascinating. It continues tomorrow. Thank you so much for that summary. That's our reporter Manqoba Mchunu giving us the very latest on the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Now to politics.